We just got a few more weeks, and then after that, that'll be the end of Season 4 of Ray Donovan. This week we have Norman Saves the World, and this was a fascinating episode, but it was also an interesting one to see Hank Azaria be Cochran in this one, because it's been a while since we've seen Cochran, have we? Because the last episode that I've seen Cochran in, well, I should say we, because we've talked about Cochran before, is episode 1, episode 4, because that was when, the federal booby inspector, right? That was like 3 or so episodes ago. Actually, I should say 2. So, with that one, that was when we got reintroduced to Cochran and the plan that he wants to deal with Ray on doing a couple of tasks for him. And Ray had to get up on stage and sing the Bob Seger and whatnot, which was pretty hilarious to see that actually happen in the episode. But anywho, this time we have Ray. This time around, we have Cochran. We have Cochran starting off the episode, singing a couple of covers of some very popular songs, covering it, singing it as if he was like singing it, sounding like he's like Randy Newman or whatever. That's probably me on that situation, but anywho, during that singing montage, we see that one of the Russian mobsters goes after Mickey Donovan, and we see that the Russian mobster basically smashes the front of a police car just to get himself arrested, and just to see if he can try to murder Mick inside his prison. Which, of course, leading into last week's episode, Ray's got to figure out how to save Mick's rear from getting murdered by the Albanians. I'm just calling them the Russians because I can't remember the correct pronunciation of these guys. We see that Hector is going to be interviewed by the local news and whoever inside the Donovan gym, and he calls upon Daryl to get his girlfriend out of recovery. But let's just get back to what this plot line is. We see that Ray goes to Cochran to get a plan to get Mick out of prison. But he gets this insane idea to have Ray tell Mick about this idea to have him in more safe custody, of saying that Mick here is gay. Yeah, gay. As in something I'm not actually going to talk about because I don't want to offend people. So let's just presume with the rest of the episode. So we see that Daryl picks up Hector's girlfriend, Marceau. I'm still trying to figure out how to pronounce that name. As Mick tries to act gay for the guards. And of course I just love the guards' reaction when Mick tries to act gay for him. It's just too priceless. He's just like, yeah, I know you're not gay. So we see that Ray has to call the family up and tell them that whenever the warden or whoever's doing this interview, whenever they call them up individually, they have to say that Mick is gay for him so that he can be in protective custody. However, this wouldn't fall through for one of the other family members, which is sadly unfortunate. But who is that member? We'll find out later. We see that Cochran hires Ray to find out some information about a couple of things, and gives him the laydown on one of the former bosses, Nick, as well as one of the clients that Nick works for, as well as one of the pieces of evidence that Cochran has on the scene of the crime. We see that Mick gets interviewed by the warden and asking him all these questions. But of course, Mick comes prepared, because earlier on, Ray told him to remember all the questions down that Ray literally wrote down. Because he's obviously going to be answered all of these simple, questions about being gay and all that. Like, were you out by these men? What gay club have you gone off to? Or all that questions. We see that Cochran convinces Mick's lawyer to let him roll with this plan, and of course, it works out in the end, because it's Cochran, Hank Azera's character. It can work either way for this dude. And we see that the family gets called up member by member, because the warden or somebody, I still don't know who it is, but for all I know, it could be the guard for all I care. They get called up piece by piece by the jail about Mick and whether or not he's gay. And of course, they all say that he's gay, including Bunchy and Terry. And we see that the Russian that got pulled into prison almost tried to get Mick poisoned, but thankfully the old man that was sitting right next to Mick was eating one of his food that got poisoned, which thankfully he doesn't die in the episode, which thankfully Mick doesn't even die in the episode, but sadly the old man gets poisoned. Sad to see him go. We see that Nick gets pulled up into the apartment, and he refuses to give up on Tommy and refuses to let out on some evidence, which of course leads into Cochran waterboarding Nick into finding some clues and evidence on where the body is hidden. They get some clues leading down into a Texan, which Ray calls up his PI, his private investigator, Avi, to find some clues and evidence on where this dude is hidden. The warden, whoever, calls up Ray's home, but it turns out that Connor's home dancing to product placement number 464, Just Dance, whatever year that it is. I don't know, it could be 2016 for all I care, as Connor is a dumbass and doesn't even realize that probably realized that he forgot the memo and is supposed to say that Mick is supposed to be gay. He's supposed to act that Mick is gay, and he's not supposed to, and that he's supposed to be under protective custody from this Russian dude. And of course, Connor is a dumbass and doesn't even say that Mick is gay. Of course, when the warden comes around, by some dumb luck, Mick's cellmate that ate the poisoned food earlier winds up dying by his cell, and as he's trying to revive him, believe it or not, that's when the warden comes by. And he picks up the dude, has his pants nearly dropped, and he's trying to figure out how to, do the Heimlich maneuver or whatever, or, trying to figure out what to do with him. And it looks like he's humping him through the warden or whatever, and the warden just goes okay, it looks like he's gay. And this creeps the warden out into thinking that Mick is gay or whatever. That's when we realize that maybe, just maybe, the warden perhaps may have thought that perhaps that he might have, that was not Ray. That perhaps could be Connor, but even then you wouldn't even tell the difference between a son or a father, perhaps, because of the different accents or whatever, or tone of voice. And we see that Ray finds the man they were after, and of course Cochran finds Sherm of the title of this episode, which is, I believe, Norman Saves the World, which I think this is like their stab at Tyler Perry or whatever, because this dude is like playing a transvestite or whatever. Like, he's like messing around with his voice, dressing up in women's clothing, and then like, you know, doing the female voice and all that. Like, that's their play on Tyler Perry and then the Medea character or whatever. And I'll be honest with you, I have not seen any of the Tyler Perry stuff, so I wouldn't even know if it's actually parodying Tyler Perry. We see that Cochran tries to retrieve the body, but it turns out that the Texan, or whoever this dude is, finds that he's inside the place as both of them wind up shooting each other down. And they're both just about down and out for the count, especially the Texan. As Ray gets the body back from inside the wall, which doesn't turn out to be inside the ice case, and they drive off to do who knows what with it. And we see that Mick, by coincidence, gets transferred into the gay side of the prison, which by the time that this happens, the Russian that is trying to kill Mick has already moved into Mick's cell. And by that point, the episode has already, by that point, ended. And I can't wait to see what happens in next week. Which, by taking a look at the preview for next week, I'm excited to see, I'm sort of in suspense to see what Ray does to Connor, especially after how Connor broke into his lock and stole his gun and all that. And yeah, can't wait to see what happens next week. So, Norman Saves the World. What do I think of this? There were a few moments where it had me laughing, and a couple of moments where I'm just like, did they really push the levels of the show at that moment? Because, especially when they had the idea of having Mick in the safe zone of saying that he's gay and whatever, that's like, wow. That is just levels of wow. I can't believe they have actually gone that far. But they've done it. They've actually made Mick gay. Or at least convinced the prison guards that Mick is gay or whatever. But in that point, whatever they're doing to try to protect Mickey from those guys, I hope that this works. And Mick doesn't die in the end. I'm up for it. So here's looking forward to seeing what happens in next week's episode, and whatever your thoughts are on Norman Saves the World, tell me what your thoughts are, and hope to see you guys next week for the all-new Ray Donovan episode. And don't worry, my provider won't be dumping Dish anytime soon. By next year, when the new season comes up, I believe that hopefully by some point I will have Prime, and I should be able to view the episodes peacefully. So I won't be able to, like, do any sort of, like, buy subscription crap like this. Though premiums are getting easier to watch on here, and it doesn't cost a whole heck of a lot. Though I do get a lot of free shipping on Amazon. whatever way works through Amazon Prime or just watching it on TV. Just whatever works. See you guys next week for the all-new episode, and don't worry, the all-new The Con vlogs are coming out. It'll come out by next Tuesday. It'll come out by the time that the Brony Can vlogs will begin its production. So, until that point, see you then.